So it got so much complicated here. So let's remove the nodes and try to figure out a better way, a much clearer way to do this shape at the back. So we know that we have these extensions here, which is the exact thickness of this edge here. So let's try to make these two shapes on the similar line first. So let's move this one to here to match the exact level on the y-axis positioning. So next we can get a better aligned edge here. So by copying this edge detect node, I will create these edges independently for two shapes, because we are having two different levels here, and we will make the extensions reach to the each elevation of the subtraction here. So we are having this top edges. So my next step will be removing the bottom parts of this shape. So for that, I will use a blend node and create a shape to subtract from this edges. First, I will decrease the scale a little bit. Use this kind of shape. Actually, we don't need that. Just add a grayscale white color first and use a transformation 2D node to place it for the subtraction. So we are having this shape. We need to create a mask for this subtraction here. Let's make it end here. So I will copy this blend node and subtract the same shape from the cartridge extension as well. So now we are having these two shapes like this. So my next step will be using two uniform colors. Check these to convert these to grayscale and pick the gray values of these two levels. This is the second one. Let's see if I can grab it from here, right? I picked there. So this will be the opacity of this, opacity of the blendings of these shapes. So let's blend these together. Actually, let's not do that. I will start by the cartridge port. This is the cartridge level. I put the color to opacity, and next I will connect this to here. So actually we need to pick this level here. Actually it's the same thing, I suppose. Let me check. We will use the max lighten. So we have white. So let's blend this together by multiplying to get the exact level for the cartridge part. I'm just multiplying. Next I will connect this to here without the mask. Let's remove it. And now I will use max lighten, should work here. Strange that this doesn't exceed the area here. This gray value should work for creating the level here, right? Alright, now it works, right? Now we can adjust the position of this shape to make it connect with the back part here. So I will simply use a transformation 2D node to move this a little bit to here. Alright. Which is better. And maybe we can get rid of this roundness here as well. So we were using shapes for all time, but it looks like it is not necessary to use this rounded shapes. Maybe we can just put a simple rectangles, but since thinking about it, this looks also good at the end. So let's use a Blu-ray grayscale to smooth the shape there a little bit. Alright, now it looks good. Now I will copy this step by using another blend node for the eject button by repeating the same steps. So first I will get to this last stage of my height level. I pick this color for the eject button, and now I will blend the eject button extension by multiplying it with the color which I picked. So I will copy this transformation 2D node to push the same shape like the previous one. So now I'm using a same blur amount and connect it to the here. Let's see. We will just multiply the shape. Right. We made it blurry. We are having a wrong result because we need to strange that this result is not right here. Yes, we need to subtract it. Alright, now we extended these parts just like this to comply with the background part, which we couldn't be able to create this indent because it's already a vertical surface. Checking that, I think I will just push it a little bit to the back once again. Alright. Cool. Now I can work on the button and the cartridge itself. Let's see what we are having here. We are having a rounded edges for the cartridge, and it is a little bit of indent, and also we are having a slope here for this part because it should not be vertically at the end. So let's work on this. and we can see how we can manage it. The best way is to use a blend, and I will just pick the cartridge shape which we have subtracted from the main shape, which is here. And this is the cartridge shape. So let's use a blend node and connect this. Right. And connect this to the final result by max lighten. And my next step will be using a gradient linear node with a transformation 2D node. Then I will connect this to here and multiply it by the cartridge part. So you see that we are having some results, but it's not what we need. I will disable the tiling. Right. Let's rotate the orientation of this gradient. We need to set the matte color to white for this gradient. Actually, it doesn't work like I need it. Let's adjust it manually. Right. And we may just need to remove this to get rid of the seam. Right. Now you see that we are having this slope beneath there. And now we can just add the cartridge part. Let's add a frame for this part. Cartridge and eject button placement. Right. And now we need to create the cartridge itself. For that, I will just copy these shapes to make adjustments in further stages. Next, I'm adding a blend. And then I will use a max lighten to put it here. You see that we don't want to extend this area as well. Our cartridge will be staying at the inner part, so I will just adjust the positioning a little bit like this, and also I will change the scale. Let's see, 95% works. All right. Let's push it down directly. So for this cartridge part, I will use a blend and use another shape and transformation 2D node to create this neck here. So to do that, let's create the shape first. Actually, we can start from scratch for this cartridge because it doesn't look okay right now. Let's change it to max lighten. From here, I will use a levels node. Actually, we don't need that. Just I will drop the opacity and then move this part like this. So I need to check the general ratio of this shape first. So let's decrease it like this. We can go to bottom part as much as we can. It doesn't matter because it will be all blended at the end. All right. So let's increase the opacity to make it shown at this area. All right. Now before that, we can use the blurring to make smoother, rounded result for this cartridge. Let's try this distance node. All right, but we need the roundness at the top. Let's try to use a levels node for that. Maybe we can just use again blurring, but blend it with the shape itself. By multiplying. So let's adjust the scale once again. So we will be having a smoother result like this. So max lighten doesn't work here. Because it overrides the bottom sharp part as well. So get rid of this effect. You can use a transformation 2D node. By stretching the shape here. Next we use another blend node with the previous shape to multiply it. So we have roundness everywhere and we will be having sharp result on the front side, as you see. Let's move the whole shape a little bit more. Now I will change the opacity of this part once again, like this. Still we may need another blur pass for smoothing the shape once more. Actually, we can do this after the blending, like this. Right. I don't like the result here, but I'm not sure why did it happen. Let's see. Let's use copy here. By using itself as a mask. Still we are having this strange extension there. Let me see why it created like this. It's not caused by the blurring. So just I'm making the copy process in full opacity, and I will drop the levels I'm converting it to max lighten back. Still we get this strange roundness there. So possibly it is caused by the MIP mapping or something, but it looks cool enough to use like this. So let's leave it that way. Maybe it's caused by the ambient occlusion or something. But it is a practice for all of us to see the different approaches on creating different shapes there. Now we need to adjust the label area here and the other gripping parts or details on this surface. So we are having this on the case. So I will use let's start by creating the label. I will use a shape node. Let's use a distance and levels. Right. And use a blend node to subtract from this shape. Actually, let's do this after this blending. Right. First we need to adjust the placement. For that I'm using a transformation 2D node. These are not totally same since our cartridge is smaller on this version. Let's keep it that way. Since we are having the subtraction in a low opacity, I will add another levels node to control the fine-tune the subtraction here. Which is better right now. Now let's add another blend for the gripping parts around the cartridge. I'm using stripes for that. Change the tiling. We are having 7 grids there. So let's add a blend for that. And my next step will be using another mask to limit this stripes, but let's first position them with subtraction. Let's use the same levels which we have used for the cartridge. Let's start with full opacity subtraction, but we will adjust the transformation there first. I'm switching the tiling mode to no tiling back. So for the cartridge, I will adjust the stripes for the placement. I want to get under the label part here, which is better like that. And now we can drop the subtraction to a lower value. All right. Now I will use another blend and subtract a shape from this stripes to make the clearance on the center area. Which is just better. We can increase the width of this stripes label actually. Right, which looks better right now. Now we have the cartridge inserted to the cartridge port. Let's work on the eject button, which we are having here. This gripping lines could not be recreated on our version, but we will just apply the button text over the shape. So let's copy this eject button nodes here. So I'm checking how we blended these. We used max lighten option, so we can blend the button and eject button and the cartridge in together with max blending option. So let's start by creating the eject button shape first. I will use positioning here, right? And also we will be using the same approaches that we have made with the distance and levels node for the cartridge. Actually, this is not the correct area. Right, let's copy these here. Here we have the rounded result back. Let's increase the size first. Right, we can increase the blur to get much more rounded result. And also we can use a levels node to adjust the contrast. Which looks better by this way. And I will increase the width of this shape. I haven't increased the quality on this one as well. I'm adjusting the wrong node, by the way. Right. This roundness is too much. We are having difficulty at the back part. I try to match the roundness there. Let's use a curve for that. To adjust the roundness of the back blurriness. Let's see. Still not having the thing we need. Because we have a very narrow area on the transition here. So let's increase it. All right. Now I will use a transformation 2D node to scale just the width of this shape to make the edges more sharper. So the back part will stay as it is, like this. And since this is the button we need, now I can use another blend node and a shape to create the this indent area of the button. So for that I will use a transformation 2D node and subtract that shape from the actual button. Like this. Now I will drop the subtraction opacity to adjust the level of the subtracted part there, which looks better right now. So this is the eject button. That that we need. Alright then, let me show you the final 3D view of the geometry that we have been created so far. So let's adjust this curve because we need to be having this extension under this area. Let's see. Right. That looks better. Alright, now you can see the general, we have created the general shape by trying to keep the resemblance between these two objects at the end. And our next step will be adding material channels for this 3D geometry. So we will use the same nodes that we have created the height map so far to create masks out of them. Sometimes we need to compress all the values to get an exact mask of every detail. So by using these masks, we will just create variations between the segments of this object to add different roughness values or metallic values, and also we will be adding different colors for each part like we did on this part. I will not get into the text details. I will just export them from Substance Painter. We can also create them in here, but the placement may be a bit of hard on too much of detail on adding these one by one, but maybe we do the same. I don't know. Let's try it. So we will figure out how it will end once we complete the base materials first. So let's move it to this side again. And just move this here. Let's rename this as slot and rename this as cartridge and eject button. Alright. You can see that the overall nodes for creating this shape is not much of a complexity at the end, because creating this kind of shapes is struggles the artist on the adjustment level, not the creation part. You see that we add simple nodes and simple shapes to create this form, but we do much of adjustment than adding nodes actually. So at the end we are having this graph for just the height map. So creating the textures and the materials are easier than the process that we made so far. So we start by creating the base color blendings to get to create the masks as well. So let's start by the wooden part at the side. So for that, designer has already a wood American cherry material there. We will use the base color or other colors of this material by blending it with a mask. Let's start by blending it on the base color area, but first we need to define a simple color for the plastic part. So for that, I will use this kind of brownish black for the plastic part. Right. My next step will be blending this color, since it will be the base color of our object. So my next step will be adding the wood over this black or brown plastic. But we need a material, we need a mask for that part. So I am going back to the starter point that we have created, the bottom layer. So it will be this area. We have smoothed it like this. Use histogram select and bevel it once again. So after the beveling, we just create a mask for the second level. So let's use a blend and subtract the second level part from the first level blend. And I will use an histogram select node to isolate the middle area of this part. So I will increase the contrast, I will increase the range, and let's try to see how it looks. Actually, we don't even need to subtract the top level from that. Let's connect this first to here. Alright, it's looking already good enough. So let's increase the contrast more to get a sharper result. And also we need to isolate this area as well. To do that, I will just adjust the position of the histogram select I'm applying. So let's see it on the 3D view. Good enough. And our next step will be making the wood direction to a correct level, like it's covered through the actual shape. For that, we are having this like this, and we will be using a shape mapper to make these veins look like, actually it doesn't work better, so we may need to use another approach. Let's see, it doesn't work either. So let's use a simple polygon or shape. I will rotate it 45 degrees, blend it with a uniform color of grayscale, which is white, by using a transformation 2D node. I will subtract this one to get this shape at the end. Alright. Now I will use another transformation 2D node by snapping it to the top area to isolate this shape. So let's use some multiple blends with copy option. this mask. So we are having like this. So I will just rotate and mirror the shape to get the same effect in each time. Let's use a mirror first in y-axis like this, and I will rotate it 90 degrees and blend it with itself. Like this, and I will connect this here. The only thing we need to do is just squeeze the texture a little bit to the top to get more detail. But since our center for this image not on the right side, I will just use another transformation 2D node to place the texture on the center of our 3D object. So you can see that we need to be keeping the corners like this. One other way to get a blending between this area to use a blur for this mask. But you can see that we are having a darker area. To get rid of this problem, I will just adjust the scale for our first shape. Right. Maybe we need to just roll back. Use the blurring. Maybe distance mode will be work better. And I will use one last transformation 2D node to adjust the shape there. So I don't want this black areas actually. Maybe leaving it just like that is a better idea at the end. Or we just use the distance which should be mirrored on y-axis to blend this area. Or just blur it to see if it works. Still not good enough. So let's leave it that way because it's already not bad for me. And also it's impossible to just create a wooden texture seamlessly for in the manufacturing process of this, because you know that these are printed wood textures, which is very famous at the 70s. So they all have the seams on application side. So we can just pass the wood part. Like this. and we have the black parts. Let's check. Also we need to have this area which should be in the wood texture, applied as the wood texture. So I need to just mask this area to apply wood texture for that part as well. So let me check. We used curve to create this transition for that area. And we used a gradient for that part. So we use this mask for that area as well. Let's use it for a starter. I'm using this as a mask. Connect this one here, this one to the background. Let's use the same wood texture there. So for this part I need to mask some parts of this. So let's use another white uniform color with transformation 2D node to subtract it from the actual shape and use it as mask. You see that we can create the wooden part just like this, but you see that also we are having trouble at the seams when we use this as a mask. I'm checking to see if we have an unblurred version, which is here. Let's connect it to the mask blending there. Maybe it's better if we just make some indent for this part as well. To do that, I'm adding a blue rage grayscale for that part. I will use a very low intensity of blurring, and then I will use an histogram select node to just isolate the area at the top white level. You can see that we have extended inside to the boundary to create the mask. So we can do the same for the label part. And for the label part, we will be using a brass metal plate. And we can define a color for that as well. So let's use a blend node. I will add a uniform color. I will define a temporary color for the brass part. So I will go look for the mask of the label part. So let's see if we are having the label shape. Brass label is here. So we used a blurring and leveling. We do that several times, and possibly this is the smaller version. Alright, which is look better. And we define the color for this part at the end. And I'm checking that we need to change the color of the buttons. So let's add another blend node. We will be using an orange color first. Let's start with this one. And we have the power button here, which we have used this shape to subtract, to create the hole all around the power button. And this is the same transitions around it. So since we have blurred this subtraction, we can isolate the whitest areas with histogram select node to create the mask of the inner side. So let's increase the position, decrease the range, and increase the contrast. So this will be the mask for the power button there. Let's check if it works. Actually, we got too narrow area for the placement. So let's increase the range. Even we use the exact mask, doesn't help. So let's use levels, or just we can use the shape itself first. Let me check it as well. Still we need to expand the area around this power button. Let's see. Since we have blurred the shape, I will just adjust the levels to create a larger mask at the end. You see that this is the blurred version, so I compress the values to create a larger area. So you can just increase the contrast by making the handles closer to each other to get the exact shape. So we have completed the power button mask. Still we are going to create the standard buttons. On the reference, I got too hard on the ambient occlusion here. Maybe it's caused by the render of the Marmoset toolback. Let me check. It also exaggerates it, so let me remove the occlusion a little bit lesser level. So let's create this button mask. Let's create a mask for these buttons. So here are the buttons part which we have used here. So we have applied this height map as the buttons. Again, I will use a levels node, and I will add a blend node to mix this buttons with the power button. Let's make it here by using the max blend option, max light option. It looks already cool on the color, so let's move on by the brass parts as well. Since we have used the same color here, we can add the top label of this brass part to the existing mask that we have created so far for the brass label part. So let's add a blend node here. I will connect this to here, and I will use a blend node max lighten option. And my next step is to blend this mask with the buttons here. So I'm checking to see where we did the inner part. We did the inner part subtraction before the tiling, which is not a good idea at the end, but we may use histogram select node still to isolate the exact position if it's possible. All right. we are having this, but since we are having the outer part as well, it doesn't work good enough. So my approach will be splitting the subtraction part at this level. So to do that, I will copy and paste the tile sampler once again. We have this blending here. Let me check how we do that. So this is the main shape. We subtract the outer shape from here, and we add this label shape to that with this blending, right? So let's use the previous stage for tiling, and also I will use this for tiling as well, and I will use this one for the blending here. So we connect this to the levels and we got the exact shape. But since we are having this isolated parts, let's see, where do we have them? Right, just like here, I will just copy the whole set of transformation 2D nodes to get the exact shape here. So now I can add this to here to get this result. So also we can use another blend for this part. Actually, we can add this to here to subtract these from the orange mask that we are having. This way, the orange part is isolated from the center labels that we are going to create for the numbering of the buttons there. So we have our masks like this. This is the breast part, and this is the orange part, which is blended with the power button like here, and it all applied on the colorize stage on our procedural workflow. Now let's continue to create the additional colors. For example, we need to have the eject button has been blended to this stage as well. Let's add this to here and use max lighten. And now I will move this blend to eject button area, and I will try to find the eject button that we have blended like this. So you see that this extends the area because we used height maps to blend these shapes. So get the better result, we may need to use a custom shape to do that. So let me check how to do that. I will just copy these two transformation 2D nodes and use a shape, and I need to control the area with that shape for better isolation on the color. Right? Since the transformation nodes are same, it's easier for me to match the symmetry of the centering the shape. So let's adjust the height of the shape a little bit more. Let's use this one and move it a little bit like this, and one minor scaling, and we have the color mask, mask for blending the base color for the eject button as well. So I will move this to here, put it under the same frame. We have the color for the eject button like this. We need to do the same for the cartridge. For the cartridge, we will use a starter color which is pure black like this. So we need to isolate the cartridge as well. I'm using this as a starter blending mask, but actually keep in mind that we have used the blending of the height maps with standard blend nodes, you know. Let me show you. We have combined the cartridges and the eject button, for example, with the standard blend node. If you use a height blend node instead of standard blend, it works like the max blend option, like the same. You will get the same result, and also you will have a mask as well, and you can use these masks by isolating them to use on your opacity levels, your base color blendings as a mask at the end, which is a cool way for this kind of blending. Also, you can use this height blends just for creating the mask for these shapes as well. You can see that if I adjust the contrast like this, and you can also change the blending opacity and also change the height offset like this, and you can easily get a mask for this kind of blendings. So let's use this for that shape. So I use a blend. I will use multiply because I need to isolate the area I need. I will add a transformation 2D node, and let's see how to isolate. Actually, I need to connect the mask here. Let's see, isolate the cartridge area to see how the height blend generates a good mask or not. And you can see that we have already a good blending here. Let's create a contrasted color to see the blend quality with the mask that we have created with the height blend node, and you see that it's already good enough to create that. You can adjust the height offset as well, and also you can adjust the contrast like this. It's already looking good enough. So let's put this around here like this, and we have this mask. Also, you can blur it a little bit to get rid of the sharp blendings at the inside parts, but I will leave it that way. Let's try it in case I'm using a very little amount of blurring, and then I will use a histogram select to get a sharper inner result for this mask. You can see that I can adjust the extension of this mask, and we have get rid of this side parts affected by the orange color here. Since we are using the black, it won't be recognized actually. Just remove these nodes and set the color to black, so it won't be recognized at the end. So we have isolated the cartridge part as well. Our next step is the cartridge label. So I'm adding another blend. So we will be using an image which I created with PaintShop Pro to make a simple label for this kind of game, which is imaginary. So we will use an image here, but let's add a placeholder first. Let's use a white color for that. And I will check for a label mask here. We do the label subtraction before the positioning and scaling of the cartridge, but we can always copy and paste the same transformation 2D nodes and connect the label itself to them to get a single label mask for this cows. So you see that label is in its place. So I'm checking to see if we are missing anything with the exact model. All right. We can add the text details one by one by now. So let's start with Eject Button there. We have this color for the Eject Button, you know. Now we can use a blend node before this stage. As you see, we have a mask for buttons there, but if we put another color at this area, which corresponds to the Eject Button's mask area, the color will be affected at this part as well. So let's start by adding a font, actually text node. I will use Infinium Guardian font for that and put an eject text to place for this button. So let's create the shape first. Also, we will use this mask for a normal map detail, or we can use it in also the height map. So let's add a blend node and use stripes. We have 3 stripes. Right. And we use a transformation 2D node to put the stripes over the text. First, change the tiling mode to no tiling. And now we can just scale the stripes to a position for the eject button. I want to make it centered in the horizontal way. So this is pretty what it is, pretty much of the same stripes on the reference. Let's see if we can do a little bit of sizing as well, right? All right, now we have this transformation 2D node. We can use it to create the triangle between the under the eject button. So let's use a polygon. Use 3 sides. I will make the rotation in, let's see, 30 degrees. Connect this to here. We use the max lighten option, the blend. So now on this copy transformation 2D node, I will just align the triangle to here. We need to be a little bit of upscaling to match the width with the same. So we have this eject detail here. Let's see that where we can use it. So for the eject button, we used some transformation 2D nodes to place the button to its location. So I will copy and paste the same transformation 2D nodes to get near to the same location. Now I can add a blend node for this color, and I will use a uniform color. Let's pick it from the 3D object as a starter, and I will connect this as the blending alpha. And now I can place this eject text to its location, and also I can rescale it from the first transformation 2D node, which I have, right? This looks like on its place. So we can add this as an height map for the shape. So this is the exact detail we are having, and this is the final height map blending we are having. I will add a blend and use add linear dodge here, but we may be still in the top highest white value. I don't know, possibly not, but I will try to see it. Since the eject button is not extruded here, we are already in the top white level on our height map. So the thing I will do is just drop the top white level to adjust, to create a space for this part. So let's make it on seeing the parameter view of the level node to add a decimal number there to make this extrusion in a very tiny way. All right. Also, we can do this on the normal map level to create this effect. So I will move all connections to the previous stage before the levels node. All right. And I will connect the one with the blended with the eject button to the normal node. So I will also do this connect this to the ambient occlusion node. This means we will add tiny details after this node, but the height map will be stayed as this level. So on this part, you can see that we have the eject detail marked on the normal map, so we can just make it more recognizable on both ambient occlusion and normal map detail on adjusting the levels of this result. So let's add a blur HQ grayscale for this eject text to make it a little bit smoother at the end. Which looks better right now. And I will, maybe we use the blurring grayscale on this level. So it will be very tiny to blurred like this. Let's see how it looks. Cool enough. Our resolution on this creating this texture is lax in detail as we go into detail actually. So, and also I did mention something about the color space of the nodes we are having. Since you see that we are having an 8-bit color space which should be converted to 16 bits of color space. The detail we are losing here with these pixels may be caused by that. So let's change the output format of this text node to 16 bits, and we have already got more detail on smoothing, you know. Let's see. I will repeat it, and we have more smoothed result at the end. So we will be having this blended result in 16 bits at the end, and also the eject detail is on its place. We have some problem on the color. Let's make it more saturated like this, and it's better. Removing the blur makes it worse, so let's go on this way. If I switch to the 4K texture, you will see that we will get more details at this eject button like this. So let's check the Alright, maybe we can drop down the top level a little bit down like this to get more detail. And also the ambient occlusion we are having has so much of radius there and depth. We can also adjust it because our shape is formed already. We don't need that much of ambient occlusion, but let's leave it that way for a while. We don't need to increase the samples, it's good enough already. Alright, we have so much of occluded eject button at the end. Maybe it should be better to subtract it instead of adding it to the texture like you see here. And if we remove the gap between these two by removing the opacity here, it should get better this way. Let's leave it as the first one so we can work on it later, because we will be adding grain to this plastic parts like you see on the reference model. So let's move on by creating the other color details.